Hey everybody, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. So it looks like we are looking at the fruits of foolishness and what happens when you front and pump fake for too long. Okay, so here is another review of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Lay down, stand up, help us. Season 10, episode 15. Okay. Tisha goes to school. Let me tell y'all something. When I just see Tisha, I either prepared to get bored or to be annoyed. And I should have prepared myself better to be annoyed because when I saw Marcel enter the scene, I presumed this was just going to be boring. And it was, but for different reasons. All right. So Tisha comes in with plastic glasses. You know the ones that look like they should have those blonde shade looking things on them that you have at like a skate party for like 6-year-olds, or if you're doing like a retro party, but you really can't see through them. That's what it looked like she had on, except for they were just plastic. Like she got them at an Ace Hardware and just like, oh, I think these are cool, dummy. Anyway, Marcel seemed to lose a little bit of weight in the confessional. Was I the only one to notice that? I hate to be that kind of black person too, wondering if somebody's sick. I mean, he just looked thinner to me. Whatever. It took 45 seconds though. About 45 seconds for them to get into an argument about Tisha saying that her stuff hasn't been built or finished, like her office or the house they're living in. This is why I say it's boring. We already know where this is going. Scott Manor is, I can't even say Chateau Charest because that actually came into fruition at some point. So he starts chastising her for not believing in him, for doing the work he's supposed to do or whatever. Side note, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I actually forgot Tisha and Marcel were even married for a minute. This show is so inconsistent. I I didn't even care enough. Anyway, so Marcel, you gaslit the hell out of Tisha. Okay, why wouldn't she be frustrated? You took over her office and gave it to another man. It's not like she has not had reasons to not trust that you will get something done. And you work slow and you don't finish jobs correctly via all your violations at Black and your sister-in-law Kimmy, who don't want you near her projects because you work too slow. And it doesn't seem like you ever finish it. So shout out to whoever it was in the comments who said they ran into the Christmas picture of them, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to look at it and then say something, because you know they still have their kids in the picture. But when I when I saw their Christmas picture, I said, no, this is fully Tisha and Marcel's fault. Who thought to produce their Christmas card and family picture on rubble? these people really, I just don't have a proper gauge on reality. They can't. So anyway, Tisha, go to work and get some income and hire another contractor. You up here talking about something, yeah, I chose to stay at home, but I don't really want to work from home. He shouldn't have kicked you out of your own office either. Why you sitting there looking like you about to cry over some foolishness? Like, I'm over these 20-year-old problems in their marriage that we've been watching for 10 seasons. It's the same thing all the time. Tisha, I don't think you're that bothered. I don't think you're as bothered as you say you are, because you would have got up and left. Anyway, they're fighting over the fact that Marcel feels like Tisha is saying he puts her on the back burner. She was like, well, I didn't say those words. I was like, even if she did, you are. Marcel, you are. Okay, especially when it comes to work and things like that. Like, cut it out. Like, this is what I mean. Don't play in my face the way you play in hers. Okay? MJ is going to college soon. So, Tisha, I mean, at least the family number is going down in that house that you think is too small. Moving on, Kimmy and Maurice. Kimmy is finishing up insurance quotes for a job that I don't even think she wants. And she let this man, Maurice, convince her what she should be doing with her life. Kimmy, anyway, Monster got a new car. And they were like, it's sitting in the driveway. And I was like, is he up there playing video games? He not using his car? Apparently, he hasn't gotten his grades up. No, I'm not looking at Monster. My thing is, why did you buy a car for him before he pulled up his grades, dumbass? I wish my father, broke as hell, would have. That would have never happened. And I damn sure wouldn't have got no car because of no good grades. Good grades were an expectation. Like, that's actually not negotiable. That wasn't negotiable in my home. But okay. So I hate the fact, and I'm tough on people, okay? If you haven't noticed. And I believe in tough love for children so they'll grow up to develop some kind of resiliency. I'm not saying perpetually, but sometimes you have to like tell your kid, no, like actually, we're not doing this. You're not going here. You're not going there until your grades get pulled up. Like, I do believe in that. However, I hate that every time Maurice is talking about Monster or to Monster, which is rare that we see that, it's always this lecture style where he is explaining to him how he wants Monster to be doing all of these things. And then he says things like, but he's not working for it. You haven't provided the example. You are a serial entrepreneur with little success. You now have a law degree and you don't practice law, and then told us you ran into a deer, into a pole, into a tree, and kept riding into Old Man River. And I don't know, like, what the fuck? And your car ended up in tree branches the way a cat does and the fire department has to come down. Like, stop playing with me, okay? It seems like the only time you spend with this boy is when you're criticizing him. And that's just something I've observed by watching it. Okay, and I am sensitive to it because I do think my parents were too hard on me, especially my father. But I will say, I didn't become even a 25-year-old, fuck a 30-year-old. Hell, 22, I was out. I was graduating college. I wasn't even there during college. But I'm just saying, like, so I know people's parents can be hard on them, but it was also modeled for me what some of these things were supposed to look like. You see what I mean? It wasn't, my parents didn't raise me. My mother didn't raise me without teaching me and like examples. So anyway, Maurice says Monster wants to be like Jalen. And Kimmy was like, I agree. But he doesn't want to do the work that Jalen did to get to where he is. And that is the missing link with a lot of kids these days. They see somebody who's successful and knowledgeable, not realizing how much work goes into that. Like, you can't just have it overnight. You got to earn that, especially if you're Black. And I think it's absolutely normal for a younger sibling, particularly of the same sex, to look up to the older brother or sister. I think that's completely normal. I looked up to both my sisters that way. And Kimmy was dead ass right when she said, you just expect them to wake up one morning and be prepared. And he was like, well, the difference is with Jalen, we didn't have to tell Jalen to do his work. And I was like, hold up. My brain set off all kinds of alarms, fireworks, and bells. Let's be clear. The we, that's the part that took me aback. Okay, regardless of how I feel about Kimmy, we've already learned that Jalen didn't feel connected to you, and Marcel was more of like a father figure. Anything that Jalen became is a result of Kimmy parenting him properly, seeing that he was grown and out of the house when y'all actually got married. Yeah, you were in the house, but you weren't present in his life. Certainly not the way Kimmy is present in Monster's life, despite Kiowa and despite your bullshit. I would have caught his ass on that. After my son had been on TV talking about how he was hurt and thought Marcel was more of a father figure, the fuck out of here. You have to raise children, Maurice. And this is what I can't stand. I feel like he has narcissistic personality traits too, along with Martel. I hate, as much as Marcel gets on my nerves, that Marcel ends up like in some situations or many situations, sometimes just being dead ass right. Or just, I don't think he's a narcissist. I don't. I think he's a sexist. But I think he's a narcissist. All right. And this is just armchair psychology, you know. Anyway, Maurice said, well, you know, that's what I did. I had ambition from the time I was a kid, both me and you. I guarantee you, Maurice, that your mother had expectations for you, especially when Marcel described you as the golden child. I guarantee ambition does sometimes, I think it's rare that it comes from nowhere. You know, people are often socialized into certain things. Their parents expecting certain things of them, the people around them, their teachers telling them how smart they are and how great they're going to be. All of those things. But my thing is, you need to stop and think, as a father, have you put in your son enough to believe in himself? I told y'all that time they were having that conversation, and Monster just looks kind of like he's staring at Maurice. And I felt like he just looks depressed. I feel like he looks, and granted, you can't tell only by looking at somebody, but he looked like he had a lot of anger toward his father. but couldn't express it because of the kind of father Maurice is. And teenage depression is no joke. Like I said, I am a survivor, and I didn't even realize it was depression until I took a college psychology class. And I was like, oh my God, that was me when I just quit eating and things like that. I mean, really quit eating, lost a ton of weight. And what do your friends say? Oh, so, especially your white friends. Oh, you look great. You look good. You know what I mean? Like, it's, anyway. And he's in a confessional, like, I agree with Kimmy that my life is a reflection of the obstacles I had to overcome. Duh, motherfucker. Okay, all of us are who we are because of our childhood, especially if it was rough. Cut it. You are not exceptional. There's a reason why I am in psychoanalysis. Okay? All right, you ain't the only one that had it rough. Okay? And you got to do something about it, but you can't go bleeding your trauma on the other people. Now, and your hairline is atrocious. It looked like, because Maurice has always been bald, but it looks like he was trying to like let it grow back in, but you can tell by the way it's curved right here. Like, I thought to myself, does he really think he's gonna grow a mohawk? But you can tell by the skin that's there, you're losing your hair. And by not shaving it off, it looks worse and it's corny, Maurice. Cut it. Not cut it, but I'm just saying, like, cut your bullshit out. All right. Well, actually, you can cut your hair off too. Anyway, so now they're going to therapy. That's what they tell us. He said he didn't want to go to therapy because nobody has all the answers. Well, motherfucker, a real therapist, like an actual doctor, will tell you that therapy won't make the memories and the trauma necessarily go away. But what we are here to do is to help you process it, learn it, so you can better function in the world and find some kind of peace and clarity. They'll tell you that. See, that's how I know you haven't been paying attention to therapy, or you weren't going to a real therapist, since you're up here talking about you don't want cliches and all this other stuff. Then go to a psychologist, not a damn life coach, okay? Or somebody who went to a for-profit school that has now been shut down, okay, based on scandal like Agrassi University, where Cheyenne Bryan got her so-called education. Damn, okay? Y'all gonna get enough out of taking relationship advice from just anybody. And just while I'm on it, because I don't bother to talk about a lot of this other stuff with celebrities or fake celebrities or semi-celebrities. But Cheyenne Bryan could not have shit more wrong. Like, if I hear her say one more time, like, to fatherless girls, a man calling you, asking you where you are, what time are you coming home? See, they would see that as controlling. As a girl who had her father, I don't see that. I said that is the direct opposite. There are plenty of girls, and I can say this because of the kind of students I've worked with. And those are stories that I don't want to express, but I can tell you that's not fatherless girls and girls who have grown up in situations where men have been dominant or absent actually think that men calling them, asking them about their every move, where they're going, where are you, is actually a form of care in their minds. And that's how they end up in abusive relationships. Right? Because they don't understand what love is supposed to look like, or grow up with a father who's abusive and they don't understand what love is supposed to look like. And it's just like when she was talking about, oh yeah, my father adored me, and when I got pregnant and he told me to get an abortion, I had to listen to him, not my mother or my grandmother. And granted, she may have been too young to have a baby. I'm not, the abortion thing is not what I'm judging. What I'm judging is when she said, but my father was the head. Let me tell you how the head of the family works. Whether I agree with certain gender roles or not, let me tell you how the head of the family works. You got to be in your house, married to the mother of your children, for y'all to decide who the fuck the head gonna be. Okay, so you saying your father was the head. No, he wasn't. He was just your father. The mother you living with, the grandmother you living with, who's taking care of you, no, they the head of that fucking house. That seemed dumb as hell. And she gives pick me, and yes, I do believe. Never mind, I ain't gonna say nothing about that because that's not what I'm here to go in on. Chris and Nell, okay? Can we just get a new confessional outfit? Okay, can they please give the 1980s Jack Nicholson Joker outfit, which is my favorite Batman, but nevertheless, that was Jack Nicholson's outfit for that part. The Joker outfit that Chris Fletcher has on, just, y'all, give them something else. I don't care if you give him a jersey and basketball shorts circa 1998. I don't care. I would kind of like that look on Chris, but it's got to go. That green and that purple, stop. Okay. So they're talking about the girls' trip down the dirt road that took an hour and a half. I said, y'all, I don't want to hear no more about this dumbass girl trip. It went exactly how I thought it would go, and I don't care. So she told him about Tisha and the snakes and all this foolishness. And Nell was like, I really don't care. And I'm going to be honest with you. I actually really do think that Nell does not care like that. I think she cared when Kimmy stood up on her. I think she cared. Like, it was just something about Nell's calmness when they talk, because we've seen Nell go off. I don't think Nell gives a fuck. Like, I feel like that level of indifference that comes with just not giving a damn about somebody. I don't think she's intimidated by Tisha. I think she thinks Tisha is annoying and grossly immature and out of order, especially since she was yelling in her husband's face. But I just really don't. I think Nell, this is just kind of part of her additional job as a reality star. I don't think Nell cares like that. I really don't. Anyway, so as she's telling Chris about all this foolishness, Chris seemed like he really wanted to take a nap, but he was trying to stay awake because he felt like Nell would be mad at him if he didn't do what he said he was going to do, which was have a picnic lunch with her that day. But he seemed not bored. He just seemed genuinely sleepy. And I know because I make those same faces. And then I try to say stuff like when I'm really tired, to be supportive of the person you're with. But anyway, he responded like I did. When Nell said she didn't bring anything, he said, what the hell were they expecting? I said that part. That part. Like, what the fuck? Why are you acting surprised? Y'all bitches don't like me. Nell was like, they want me to talk about what happens in our house and the stuff going on with our kids. That is what they want, Nell. That is. So they can weaponize it against you later. And if you are not loyal to anybody else now, your family is worth protecting. I actually do think that. Even if it means y'all lie about not knowing that your granddaughter was the agreed upon lie. But family is family. And it's what you have. Okay. Now, I think if there's any reason for you to protect anything, it's because those are your kids and that's your husband. Damn. So Chris was like, what is the issue with you and Tisha? She said you and Marcel. And it is. And for some reason, I've forgotten that. Just because Tisha is carrying on, she was like about the NDAs, and I was like, damn, we going back to that scene that was 2 minutes with him and Mel, because he's trying to get himself out of the doghouse with Mel, because Mel knows some of their business too, especially if Mel was calling her about problems her and Chris were having, which Mel alluded to when she was like, you've called me plenty of times too about your husband. Sounds like y'all are more friends than mentors, but anyway. He said, and he asked her back, he said, y'all's issue is me and Marcel. Whether they like each other or not, they're not sitting around harping over that. Tisha is keeping this shit up. It's not Marcel. It's not Nell. It's not Chris. I think Nell would have gone on, maybe not caring for Tisha, but not carrying on with Tisha. And she really hasn't. She just seems like, just get this bitch the fuck out of my face. I'm filming this scene to make money because my kids are absorbing my money that I wanted to use for my boutique. Anyway, and if Nell did talk about Tisha's marriage to Destiny, so what? So what? She said to keep my family's name out your mouth, or I'm going to start telling stuff I really know. In that one horse and buggy town, it ain't nothing that hasn't been told or that hasn't been heard, and Tisha has spent seasons trying to cover it up. Granted, once again, I get trying to protect your family, but we know you're not going to leave, Tisha. You go out of your way to try to prove that, oh, he wasn't doing this, that, and the other. Look, things happen in a marriage. Nell and Chris talked about their infidelity, Chris's infidelity, and she left him for a while and loved him enough to go back to him, whatever. But y'all have used that, and I don't like that. And I don't like when y'all, because the shame doesn't fall on Chris. When y'all have those conversations, it's like, oh, Nell and her marriage, like, it's her fault. Y'all still operate under that space, that anti-woman space, that blame the woman. And one of the main tenets of misogyny is to blame women for men's behavior. And that's what y'all do. And then when it happens to y'all want to get upset. Okay, well, change your behavior. So Tisha and Marcel, I hate that. So in this small house, that Tisha don't like to work in, Tisha was complaining about how she sought out a therapist who apparently brought in their own personal furniture bench, which confused me. I said, girl, you were just complaining about the space? Huh? All right, so Marcel comes home. She didn't bother to tell him Nita was going to be there. The same way she roped him into therapy that time. Okay, if you can't tell him this basic stuff, something is wrong. So Nita, we find out, is not a therapist, even though that's what Tisha told us. But y'all know Tisha, Tisha Espa. Sorry. Okay. Oh well. Nita is a love and intimacy coach, a non-doctor. Okay. But I'm sorry. Let me explain this to you. You call a doctor for a reason. You call a nurse for a reason. It is not to call somebody a doctor who's a doctor and say, well, nurses do work too. Yeah, they do. But that's not what's happening. You call a judge for a reason. And then a lawyer for a reason. Lawyers make appeals to judges. Judges make decisions. Like, I don't know why we have this thing where either we're extremely defensive for rich people, or then we want to be like extreme. We're trying to give people credit and shit that don't matter. Like, she's not a doctor. The fuck? All right, so Tisha, you were looking like Celie from The Color Purple with those braids, and that's what really reminded me. But you didn't have the charisma of Celie. Did I ever ask you for a goddamn thing? Did I ever ask you? You don't have none of that. You don't have none of that. How dare you steal her look? Anyway, Marcel says he always asks for hugs from Tisha, and he's not trying to have sex. He was like, my love language, which is not some kind of chemically proven thing, by the way. That's something some guy came up with, and he get in trouble for like messing with children. I can't remember the exact terms, but there was a lot of scandal with him. But anyway, okay, y'all, love languages. Okay. And physical touch. Tisha, you saying in the confessional after 20 years, you didn't know he would be willing to hug without sex, and then say you didn't grow up with, kisses and hugs, things like that. Bitch, you mean to tell me y'all never had that conversation, not even by accident? Tisha does a lot of lying. And this is what I mean by Marcel sometimes accidentally just ends up right, despite how I feel about his sexist behavior, because Tisha fronts a lot, and Tisha lies. She lies a lot. I mean, granted, everybody on TV is lying at some point or another. But I'm talking about that regular lying that you started to believe your own bullshit kind of lies. So anyway, Tisha fronts. First of all, was I the only one uncomfortable that they were doing this where their kids probably play board games and video games? Y'all should have just done this in the bedroom. I don't give a fuck because Nita was going to leave anyway. I was just uncomfortable that the kids were going to come home at some point. I don't give a fuck how old they are. The kids were going to come home some point and they're not fully out the house. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I was cringing. Okay. So they were just quiet for a second before Marcel got mad and up in his feelings that she misrepresented him as kind of like he wasn't intimate. Tisha, you are a liar. Next. Okay, she's telling Marcel about the stuff with him and Nell while she's on top of him. I said, girl, that's what you're going to do? You got a man with a whole dick right there. And you decide to sit up here and talk about some bullshit that happened between you and Nell at a trip where you had backup to do that corny ass shit you were doing? Girl, bye. Girl, bye. If you don't want to be with him, just leave him. Because when you're on top of him, that should be the last thing on your mind. I'm just going to keep it real. And then you really want to have a conversation about that? Why? Why? Why would you want to do that? Me and Tisha can't be that far apart in age. Something is wrong, baby girl. Something is wrong. So Marcel was like, with all this stuff now, he was like, do I defend me? And she was like, no. She was like, basically because you don't care. He said, no, it's because it's not the truth. And so I don't bother. He was basically saying that he feels misrepresented based on what she tells people and people's perception. He was like, I don't care if people think he said, I'm not going to accept the narcissist allegations. And honestly, I don't. And I'm saying as an armchair psychologist, because I do think people overuse that word. And like I said, my psychoanalysis explained to me what a narcissist was, that at the root of who a narcissist is that they had some deeply, deeply traumatic and damaging experience as a child. And I'm just paraphrasing. And they make up in their mind, usually in those teenage years between, 13 to 18, that that's never going to happen to them again. And they spend their whole life trying to become something or convince people that there's something that they're not, just to avoid that traumatic or experience of being less than. And no, I don't think I don't think Marcel is, I don't think he behaves like one. I think he behaves like a sexist or misogynist. But I don't think he does that. And he said, talking to her is like reading the comment section. I thought I'd die. Because y'all sit up here and talk all this shit about social media, but y'all are reading the comments. That's why Tisha's so affected by it. Not to mention her sorry ass mama. Anyway, so Kimmy and Maurice. So their therapists, who are known as marriage menders, whatever, come to their house. I don't know the extent of their education. I didn't think the advice they were given was that bad. They've been seeing them for counseling via Zoom, but the therapists prefer to meet face to face. And prior to COVID, that was the way it was, right? So I can understand that, especially now that certain things are passing. Although I think a lot of places in the country didn't take it seriously, like New York did when Cuomo shut everything down. Yeah, but anyway, I don't know where that came from. This. All right, anyway, so I think it's a good idea post-COVID, especially with somebody like Maurice. Over the last 2 sessions, they said they've been talking about what's important to them. So the 2 things that they want in their relationship, Kimmy wants time and he wants sex. I am not saying that sex is not a part of any kind of romantic relationships. I'm not saying that it is not an enjoyable part of relationships, but to think that sex is some kind of thing that should just go along with, like, oh yeah, we should go out and eat, or we should go out and see a movie. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, nigga? What is wrong with you, man? You are too old to be like that, okay? So I had so much angst about this scene, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because I saw clips of it online, but I really also, because every time sex comes up with Maurice and Kimmy, honestly, it sounds like a form of assault to me. I'm just gonna be honest. So I was just like, oh, what is she gonna reveal? Anyway, she said she doesn't feel like she gets enough quality time with him. That's clear. She doesn't get enough quality time with him, and neither does Monster. So where is he spending his quality time? In the car, hitting a deer and a pole, flying into the river, and still survived. Okay. Now they started rolling the cameras back, right, to all these scenes. I was like, oh yeah. Like, it had to be in the recess of my mind somewhere. But I knew when that bastard tried to force her to have sex with him while she battled breast cancer, I knew he wasn't shit. That's got to be the lowest of fucking low. And y'all know I'm already connected to that because my mother had breast cancer twice. There are some things that I guess if you don't see them up close, you don't understand. But my thing is, Maurice has seen them up close. And it was really hurtful to me to even watch Kimmy sitting up there explaining to him, okay, what can we do about sex? So she's worried about him, attention, worried about him cheating. Instead of him saying, you know what, fuck it. I'll jack off in the bathroom because my wife needs me. He doesn't love you like that. I hate to say, and I know that sounds cruel and mean, because I really don't like that language where people are constantly saying, if a man does this, he doesn't like you. If a man does this, he doesn't like you. Because I feel like it's abusive to the women who are feeling a certain way. And I don't feel like the same language happens to men when women don't like them. It just seems to be, oh, they're just a bitch. You see what I mean? Like, so I don't like to do that. But anyway. So he said, well, he'll give up time for sex. I mean, we're still spending time together. I said, what the fuck? What kind of fucking 17-year-old mentality, freshman year in college bullshit is that? Like, seriously, like, that's the level of immaturity it is. So they start, like I said, anyway. So Kimmy, you are trying to reason as you talk with him, with a grown man at his big ass age, knowing that he is stuck on stupid and selfish. Was it worth getting married to him after being married to him for 7 years? Really, is it worth it? Because I know he didn't just get like this. You bought a house with this motherfucker who hadn't had a formal commitment, was helping him with his son and all this other shit, while his baby mama, ex-wife, gave you all this grief. Kimmy, it's pick-me behavior. And it's not a good look. Because, Kimmy, you are a pretty woman. I don't like your character. I don't like your attitude. And I don't like the fact that you had me fooled for like 6 seasons. But, like, girl, this ain't it. Okay? and there are no kids to dice up in custody or anything like that. So Kimmy is saying there's such a thing as too much sex. It is. Everybody's body needs to, like, give it a second. It's like men who put pressure on their wives to have sex or cheat on them when they're pregnant, when they're actually at the height of their, libido. That's what I hear. You actually want it more when you're pregnant. And men who cheat on their wives, like the active disrespect. And then, or after, and you have to wait 6 to 8 weeks. So fucking what? Women will stay in a marriage with a man who does not even give them that kind of physical attention or attraction because they believe in the actual sanctity of it. That's why I'm getting pissed. So the therapist said there might be some hypersexuality going on. You think? All right. She said, do you really feel like women can just have sex over and over again within one day? This motherfucker said, without skipping a beat, without pause, without even coughing, said, I heard growing up that she can lay down longer than you can stand up. I'm sorry, do you only have sex in one position? What does that even mean? First of all, seriously, what the fuck does that even mean? Okay, that's true for most human beings. Just in a basic sense, have y'all ever worked retail? I have, and your feet are fucked up by the end of the day. What the fuck? Yeah, most people can lay longer than they can stand, bitch. What the fuck? So the therapist said, who told you that? And she looked disgusted, and rightfully so. I'm glad she didn't try to no. People got to know that and feel that. He says, oh, it's just a saying I heard growing up. I said, so from who? I started asking my own questions to to the show. All right. I said, is it just saying you heard growing up from who? Like, who matters in this case? We need to know who you got this from to understand the influence that it apparently has had on you. If it was from your father who went to prison and forced your mother into more poverty, that y'all were living in shelters, it matters to me. Because then that can help me understand. If you heard it from your older brother or one of your brothers who tried to threaten a sex tape against Mel's mother, Van, it matters. Because that will also tell me a lot about you and what you come from. He doesn't say who told him this because he doesn't want Kimmy understanding the source. For all we know, he could have heard this from 12th graders while he was in 10th grade on the football team. Like, are you kidding me right now? Maurice was some bullshit. Anyway, so the male therapist said, what does the plan look like, though, from today? She told you she needed more time. He said so resolutely, once again, without nothing. He goes, it's not going to happen, Doc. And Kimmy is like, why? And then she starts talking about the energy he's giving. She's loud, raising her voice, the same shit she was accusing Nell of. But she's still directing the conversation to the therapists that are right there and not Maurice. And I'm going to tell you right now, what pissed me off about that, Kimmy, you need to talk to this motherfucker. Because that's the problem. We always hear you defending Maurice's bad and disrespectful behavior. Like when he said a woman should just lie down and take it while you had fucking cancer and said that shit to Carlos King and laughed about it. While he does nothing but zap energy from you and parenting from you that you give to his son. And I'm not saying that families can't be blended, but I'm also saying people can be married and not take other kids into their fold. And I feel like Kimmy has taken his son into her fold that he begged to get from Kiowa. For what purpose? That boy needs his mother. I'm gonna be honest. I think you'd be better off with her. Don't even get me started on kids that would be better off without not having their father in a home. Don't ask me how I know, just know I know. Anyway, so meanwhile, Maurice, with that toboggan on, looks like he's about to rob his own fucking house. He tries to laugh it off, and I was so glad that both therapists looked at him stoically, like, Ninja, this ain't funny. And I appreciated that, because that means they know how to draw the line. Now, they told him that his sex is self-soothing, and self-soothing things then become addictive, which makes sense. The same reason why people start with cocaine or crack or you know, well, opioids are a little bit different sometimes, because that's sometimes the doctor gives it to you and then it just becomes addictive. But he told them in the previous session that his father used to put a lock on a refrigerator. I was like, oh my God. And that's not the first time I've heard those stories distantly, not a lot, but I do know people who've had I heard of people having that experience. Put a lock on the refrigerator. And he said he was confused He said he was angry about it, but they said, what did you feel before that? He said confused. And in true black man fashion, going all the way back to the likes of James Baldwin, who's an author that I love, whose stepfather, that was his father, the only father he ever knew, abused him growing up. And he admits this in his writing, talks about it in interviews, but then will always follow it up and says publicly, but now I understand him. He had a lot of weight on him. But it doesn't change all the trauma that you experience and that you're still swimming through. James Baldwin and Maurice. That same grace never happens for black mothers, despite them giving everything for their kids. Okay, that's why we see that kind of like hatred and kind of behavior, like of people like D.L. Hughley and Chris Rock. These are not people that I don't find funny. But I also see a lot of misogyny in their humor or stand up. Anyway, but yeah, it was that bullshit. And he was like, but I understand him now. He couldn't ration the food without locking the refrigerator. Baby, he couldn't ration the food without locking the refrigerator. No, you're angry because he had all of these kids and he made a decision. I guarantee you he was somebody like Joe Jackson who said, I don't believe in birth control. But then you mad that the kids exist because it's causing you extra stress and you got to provide for them. And don't act like Katherine Jackson wasn't working. People try to act like, oh, he took on 2 jobs. Yeah, but Katherine Jackson was also working and taking care of those children while he abused them because he's angry about his place in life. A lock on the refrigerator, as far as I'm concerned, is a form of control and abuse. Your kids are fucking hungry. You can't say to them, like, oh, okay, don't touch that, don't eat it, we're not eating that till later. And if you eat it now, you're not getting any later. I mean, like, just the whole idea of a lock. Okay, so the therapist asked him how he soothed himself when he couldn't have food, when he couldn't eat. And don't get me wrong, it's sad. And he said, well, basically look at porno magazines. And we would put him in the lamp of the bathroom, and everybody acted like it wasn't there, but we all knew we'd get mad if it wasn't there. And that's a family where he wasn't allowed to express himself, and certainly not express himself without being challenged. Then they asked Kimmy, how does she feel when she doesn't get what she needs? She said, I feel sad, disconnected, alone, some other stuff. And the therapist told her to turn to him, which I noticed before, as I said to y'all before, even as I was taking my notes. He said, you're telling us, but you need to tell him. And I think she still was looking to the therapist and talking to them because subconsciously Kimmy knows at this point that if she expresses her opinion, that it's counted to Maurice's, he's going to shut her down and he's going to ignore it. And then he tells her that he's learning that he lacks emotional intelligence. No, you have none. And you didn't just learn that. Kimmy acknowledged that he had a rough childhood. So she has made excuses for his behavior, but she doesn't want to make excuses to the point where she doesn't get what she needs. Good, Kimmy. You're making progress after the 3rd session. All right? But that's exactly how they get you. I'm sorry he experienced that as a child. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And I certainly don't find joy in that or anything like that. But my thing is, that's how they get women. I'm also sorry for Kimmy, who told us she grew up with an alcoholic, abusive father who abused her mother, and that's why she felt the need to protect her mother, and why she has a problem with people yelling at her because it's a trigger. And Maurice is finding ways to abuse her in new ways, and you want to know why she sticks with it? Because it's familiar. Because it's familiar. Somebody who's been in therapy for 8 years, and I know y'all gonna be like, and that's why you got all the problems you have. That maybe that is. I do have a lot. But the point is I'm working on it, and I ain't gonna never let nobody shame me into all the hard work that it goes in telling the most vulnerable parts of my life that honestly I would have preferred to forget. And had I not been spiraling and had my psychoanalyst, by the grace of God, picked up that phone and said he was willing to accept new patients, I don't know what would have happened. But that's why this helps me see some things. And I do this for fun. But when I see those things, I feel something. And Maurice should feel something knowing that Kimmy had that childhood as well. And that's what I mean by that kind of manipulative control. Yeah, I had it bad. So did she, motherfucker. So empathize. Okay, Maurice saying he doesn't have the emotional intelligence, but he's going to get it. For me, seemed like an act for the camera that narcissists would do. The same kind of shit Martel would tell Mel on television screen, knowing good and damn well he wasn't going to do it. Narcissists do things like say the opposite of what they plan to do. And then when you call them on it, they're going to treat you like you're crazy. Now, once again, I'm just saying he appears to have narcissistic personality traits. But anyway, next week apparently Wanda and Nell gonna meet. But let me tell you what I did not notice or notice in that preview for next week. While Miss Wanda, fuck her. Wanda was talking all of that shit. She ain't stand up on Nell, because let me tell you something, that's an ass whooping. Nell ain't scared of no Wanda. Fuck Wanda. And I say fuck her too. Make sure y'all check out my Venezuela video, because that's, serious stuff that we need to talk about. But anyway, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank y'all for hanging out with me again on a Saturday night, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.